Coming up on Network Africa, all on board a small plane killed after crashing in the eastern region of South Sudan. Ghana and UK sign a post-Brexit trade deal worth £1.2 billion plus. The Catholic Church in Tanzania cry out as over 70 officials die after showing symptoms of coronavirus. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in South Sudan, where at least 10 people have died after a small plane crashed on Tuesday evening in the eastern Jonglei state of South Sudan. Authorities say it happened at Pieri airstrip shortly after takeoff while heading for the capital, Juba. A team of investigators have been sent to the site of the crash to conduct preliminary investigations. The plane belonged to a local aviation company, the South Supreme Airlines, and the firm has not yet issued a statement about the crash. Jonglei State Governor Dene Jok Chagor says he received the news with shock and horror and has also sent his condolences to the family and friends of the deceased. South Sudan's air safety profile is not yet rated by the International Aviation Safety Assessment Program, but the database on Aviation Safety Network ASN shows that at least 10 planes crashed in different locations in South Sudan between 2018 and 2020, which caused about 30 fatalities. Well, Egypt and Sudan are supporting the Democratic Republic of Congo to lead negotiations on their row with Ethiopia over the mega dam on the Nile River. A joint statement by their foreign ministers affirmed their support for what they call an enhanced structure of negotiations sponsored by the African Union that includes the US, the European Union, and the UN. The ministers also noted that a unilateral filling of the dam for the second phase would be a direct threat to their country's water security. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who met Sudan's Foreign Minister Mariam al-Sadiq, said the dam was a vital issue for both countries. The plan for enhanced talks comes after Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi took over as AU chairman last month. Well, years of negotiations over the dam have been fruitless, including recent ones hosted by the US and the African Union. Ghana and the UK have signed a new trade agreement worth £1.2 billion that will allow free access and tariff reductions for certain goods between the countries. Before Brexit, the UK was automatically part of any trade deal the European Union had negotiated with another country. In its negotiations to leave the EU, the UK government managed to roll over most of the third country trade deals it had as part of the Union, but it did not include Ghana's, meaning importers faced tariffs and extra paperwork. But now Ghanaian products including bananas, tinned tuna and cocoa will benefit from tariff-free access to the UK. The UK's exports include machinery, electronics and chemical products will also benefit from a reduction in import duty taxes. Well, our correspondent Juliana Olayinka joins us now from our London studios for more on this. Hello, Juliana. Tell us, what is the significance of this post-Brexit deal between Ghana and the UK?
Hi, Lau. Well, the UK Trade Secretary Liz Truss was definitely very happy about it, very smiley at the ceremonial signing. yesterday with her Ghanaian counterpart. This deal was actually brokered last month, but they just dotted the I's and crossed the T's earlier today. As you said, you've mentioned some of the products that will be imported and exported. The trade deal is worth £1.2 billion. The last data that I've seen shows that trade to Ghana from the UK was £722 million in 2019. Trade coming to the UK from Ghana was worth £500 million. And, you know, UK and Ghana, they've got these historic ties, very similar ties to the kind of ties that Britain has with Nigeria. And, of course, if Prime Minister Boris Johnson wants Britain to be the trade destination of choice for Africa, these are the kind of trade deals that they'll need to be signing post-Brexit.
Well, you mentioned now just, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, wants to make Africa or Britain be the next point of call for African countries. Do we know of any other African countries the UK might be looking into signing more agreements like this?
Well, there's been several. I think since post-Brexit, there have been about 13 different trade deals. Liz Truss has been very, very busy dotting around the world, particularly in Africa. And as you may or may not know, we're only in the first week of March, and already there have been dozens of Africa-Britain trade investment seminars, albeit virtually. I think, Boris Johnson is certainly ramping it up. Some people have said that Britain have taken their eye off the wheel, and as they were, cozying up to their EU partners, you have the likes of China, America, and continental countries within Europe, going after these new deals. I think the difference now, of course, is that we have the African Free Trade Continental Area. We've also got ECOWAS. We've got the East African Community. There are southern pacts. There have been some allegations that there are tensions arising because although there are deals that have overlapped and are basically a copy and paste of what Britain already had under EU terms, there are new blocks, there are new deals. And so I think what's really important and what some observers want for Africa now is for Africa to be first, not last. And in some of these old-style colonial deals, Africa are not getting the best for their buck, particularly when it comes to East Africa and the East African community. So hopefully, once more deals are forged over the next coming months, Britain have got to take into account the fact that Africa do business differently. Yes, African leaders must make sure that they realise, that for once in a very long time, Britain needs them possibly more than Africa needs Britain.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Juliana Olayinka, our London correspondent. Well, Ghana has begun its coronavirus vaccination drive with 600,000 AstraZeneca doses it received from the global COVAX vaccine sharing facility aimed at providing shots to developing nations to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, people lined up outside the regional hospital in the capital, Accra, for the first phase of vaccinations, which is prioritizing frontline health workers and others at high risk. Bernice Anaglete and her colleagues who work in the COVID-19 intensive care unit at Accra's Ridge Hospital say they are excited to receive the jabs.
I really feel so good because we are waiting for the vaccine and we are ever ready to receive it. Let me say, we are the people taking care of the patient. So if I've been vaccinated, I think it will help me or it will protect me against the virus, or from contacting the virus from the patient?
Well, I feel excited because I have been one of the lucky ones who did not get infected in the line of duty. But a lot of my colleagues have fallen to the vaccine. Some have recovered, some are still not feeling well, and some have unfortunately succumbed to the virus. So I feel excited that today marks the beginning of a new journey in the face of this, the fight against this pandemic. I am really very excited to be part of the vaccination process.
It's a good thing.
While more African countries have received their first batches of the coronavirus vaccines under the global COVAX scheme, Kenya received more than 1 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine on Wednesday, becoming the third East African country to benefit from the UN-backed distribution initiative. The doses are enough to vaccinate 500,000 people in the first phase, and frontline health workers, teachers, police officers, and the elderly are to be first in line. While in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Health Minister Eteni Longodos was at the airport on Tuesday night to receive 1.7 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The DR Congo is expecting a total of 6.9 million doses to be delivered from now up until the end of May 2021. Angola received 624,000 doses of the vaccine, while the Gambia received 36,000 doses on Wednesday. Rwanda has also received its own fair share, 240,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, with a further 102,960 doses of Pfizer vaccine. The country will use the jabs to immunize people identified as priority risks group. The COVAX scheme is a World Health Organization-driven strategy for a global and equitable distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine. It hopes to deliver more than 2 billion doses to people in 190 countries in less than a year. Well, joining us now on the program is Cyrus Ombati, a Kenyan journalist, to give us more on the situation in Kenya as they have received their own vaccine. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for joining us on the program. Talk to us more about today's arrival of the vaccine.
Good afternoon. The first batch of the 1.02 million vaccines arrived in Kenya this early this morning. That's around 1 a.m. And they were received by the cabinet minister in charge of health, Mr. Mutahi Kagwe. This is part of the larger kind of contingent that was applied by Kenya, 20 million doses to be administered among Kenyans, of which 10 million more will be given out free by the COVAX group. COVAX was it's a group of countries, poor countries, which came together to benefit from a form of donation by the Oxford company, which is making this vaccine. That's AstraZeneca. So far, there is excitement among Kenyans who are eager to see it being rolled out. And so far, we don't know if and when the president is going to lead the vaccination exercise, because so far the CS in charge of health said the president is not a priority for now. When the cargo arrived last night, early this morning, there was excitement at the airport briefly before the cargo was taken away to the storage place around 5 kilometers away.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask who will be the first in line, perhaps President Uhuru Kenyatta, but you've just mentioned that, health officials say he's not a priority. So what is Kenya's rollout plan?
The minister so far said that health workers, teachers, policemen, and the students will be the first, will be prioritized so far. That means that the doses that have arrived will be going to doctors, nurses, clinic officers first, then policemen, then teachers, then students who are in school. The president is not yet clear whether he's going to lead in this exercise. I mean, there have been claims that some VIPs in Kenya have been vaccinated so far. They got a vaccine from the Chinese vaccine, but that's something to wait and see whether he leads the whole exercise or not. From there the government says they roll out the program to the old people. That's the people who are aged 60 and above. And they roll out to the other groups now, including journalists. Journalists were also not included in the members of vulnerable groups. And then they will come to other people who have underlying problems, diseases, who are more exposed, so that now they can scale it down to other patients or other Kenyans.
Right then, Kenyan journalist Sarah Sombati there. Thank you so much. Well, still ahead on the program. The World Food Programme and UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, is appealing for $266 billion to end food ration costs in East Africa. We'll give you more details. Welcome back to the program. The Catholic Church in Tanzania says 60 nuns and 25 priests have died in the last 2 months after showing symptoms of coronavirus. The church, which has been outspoken about coronavirus before, in one of the few countries in the world not to publish its virus data, warned Tanzanians to take COVID-19 precautions more seriously. President John Magufuli has previously downplayed the virus and refused to take measures to curb its spread. And even last month, the health minister said that the country had no plans to vaccinate. But Father Charles Kitima, who's the secretary of the Tanzanian Episcopal Conference, an official assembly of Catholic bishops, said the COVID-19 threat was alive in the East African nation. This is the second time this year that the church has spoken out about the threat of the pandemic in the country, saying in January it had noticed a spike in deaths in the parishes. Tanzania has not issued any statistics on COVID-19 since May 2020, and the World Health Organization has pleaded for the country to do so. Two other stories now. Accessing Ethiopia's Tigray region is a top priority to aid organizations to help the internally displaced people. Save the Children says it is one of the first aid agencies to reach displaced families in Oxum's central Tigray in Ethiopia.
Save the Children released a video shot on February the 8th showing the distribution of food, shelter and sanitation to those displaced by conflict. The organization says it is one of the first aid agencies to reach displaced families in the Tigrayan town of Axum in Ethiopia. Communication manager Christiana Martin filmed this message from a school that has been turned into a camp.
Save the Children are at this IDP site in central Tigray where we're distributing to 250 households emergency food, shelter, wash, health and sanitation and dignity kits. Most of the IDPs here have fled from western Tigray to central Tigray and they are living in this local primary school. The conditions are really terrible. They are overcrowded. There are up to 30 families living per classroom. We're hoping today that the aid that we distribute, the essential food, will see these families through for the next month. As of yet, none of these IDPs have received any humanitarian assistance. Save the Children are the first on the ground, and as you can see today, the emergency supplies that we're distributing are critically needed and hopefully will really make a huge difference to these families who are in desperate need.
Axum is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, famed for its tall obelisks and ancient churches, but it also has been the site of some of the most brutal fighting in Ethiopia. On Friday, February 26, Amnesty International accused Eritrean forces of killing hundreds of civilians in northern Ethiopia over 24 hours last November, an incident it described as a potential crime against humanity. However, Eritrea rejected the accusations. But an Ethiopian state human rights body issued a statement that also described such killings, though with fewer details. It was a rare official acknowledgement from Ethiopia that Eritrean troops participated in the conflict during the government's crackdown in the Tigray region last year. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government declared victory over the Tigray People's Liberation Front after its forces withdrew from the major cities and towns at the end of November. However, low-level fighting has continued in some parts of Tigray.
As the world continues to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic, participants at the 9th African Fiscal Forum discussed how sub-Saharan African countries are handling the health and economic crisis and how the pandemic has jeopardized the years of hard-won development gains and upended the lives of millions of people. The forum, hosted by the International Monetary Fund and the European Commission, also provided an opportunity for participants to consider the relevant fiscal reforms that are required to spur recovery in the region.
Choices. One of the biggest difficult choice, I would say, is really the arbitration to postpone some of the investments that we were supposed, let's say, to do in 2020, and we decided to postpone to create the fiscal space necessary to deal with the consequences of the pandemic.
I am optimistic about Africa's future. Why? Because it is a youthful continent where leaders stepped forward in so many places. And some of these leaders are on this call. But Africa would succeed only if Africa believes in itself enough to be fully transparent on every possible issue with the rest of the world.
The World Food Programme, WFP, and the UN Refugee Agency is appealing for $266 million to end food ration cuts for over 3 million refugees in East Africa. During the last months, WFP has been forced to implement ration cuts for refugees in Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan, Djibouti, and Ethiopia. Speaking to journalists in Geneva, Thompson Feary, WFP's spokesperson, said funding shortages have forced cuts of up to 60%, and that has compromised long-standing efforts to achieve food security in the camps.
Critical funding shortages have forced cuts of up to 60%, compromising long-standing efforts to achieve food security in camps. East Africa hosts one of the largest displaced populations of any region in the world, with some 4.4 million refugees and 8.1 million internally displaced people as of end 2020. The most dramatic cut is in Rwanda, where starting from this March, refugees will have their rations cut by 60%, meaning that refugees will only receive 40% of the recommended minimum daily kilocalories. As our refugee program in Rwanda is completely cash transfers, we can quickly reverse this situation, but only if we can receive additional funding.
These cuts will have dramatic consequences, and without the funds, thousands of refugees, many of them being children, will not have enough to eat. Already the cuts in food rations and cash are forcing people to skip or reduce meals, to sell off their belongings, and the risks are growing, including of child labor and domestic violence.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adigoke.